Hey guys, I'm Jen McKnight, and you are listening to the Mind Being podcast. Here we speak about everything that has to do with creating that dream life that you love. Now, if I tell you I have been there, I've done it. I was a corporate girl. I went the entrepreneurial route, and I know what it's like to try and balance and juggle everything in your life when you've got a family, kids, you're an ambitious career woman, and you're trying to build it all at once. Okay, so I feel you and I hear you. And my mission is to help other people like me create the dream life that they love and show them that it is 100% possible. So today I am so excited because we have a guest, Jennifer Watson, who is an HR expert. She's a strategist, she's a coach, she's got 10 years experience in the industry, and she is going to reveal her 4-step process to show us how to say yes to the things that are really going to get us closer to our future vision, and how to say no to the things that don't serve us, right? Because who needs more things on their plate? I know so many of you are probably thinking, how on earth am I going to fit something else into my daily goals and my schedules, Jen? My schedule is whack. I get it. I get it. Trust me. We are going to chat about this process, and we are going to implement that filter to help you make that dream come true much faster. Okay. So we're going to look at how we're going to get your 5-year plan down to 1. What are the barriers that are stopping you? How we can filter to give you more time to achieve it. And it is going to be an awesome session, guys. What you gonna do when the rain is coming down? Nothing more to do when there's no one else around. Bring it back to the middle, push, take it back to the rhythm. So Jennifer, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here because this is a particularly important topic to me, because I know what it feels like to be a woman where you give 500% to everything and you spread yourself really thin and you actually lose sight of your own dreams and yourself, and you wake up thinking, what on earth am I doing with my life, right? So I really want to welcome you to the show because I know that you're going to really help our listeners today. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about you, who you are, and what your purpose-driven business is.
Yeah. So you covered a little bit of the career side. So what I'll cover is who I actually am. So I consider myself a back in the day recovering career stunted people pleaser who made the choice about 3 years ago, pretty much after blowing up my life, when I chose to get a divorce, that I was going to change it. And since then, I've, bobbed and weaved my way kind of through life to really form the life, the career, and the family that I think is the most meaningful to me. Still a lot of work to do there, but, I love helping women kind of have it all. I think you can, obviously different phases in your life, but that's what really gets me motivated and going. And that's who I believe I am at the core.
I love that, Jen. And I must say, I do agree that we can have it all. I don't think it has to be either or. And I think there's so many women that are struggling with the same thing. And that's really, the first topic or question that I had was, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see women face in achieving the life that they want? And in previous discussions, you had mentioned to me that, we say yes to a lot that doesn't support our future vision or the life that we want. And we actually just end up overwhelmed, burnt out, doing too much and not feeling accomplished. We feel like we're not achieving anything, even though we're doing everything at 500%. What are some of those challenges that you see?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen is that we are so busy and we fill our plates with so much that we actually don't stop and say, like, do I even want this? And you lose yourself in the doing. You lose yourself in the activities and the meetings and the dinners and the logistics. And so, first of all, we don't even know where the heck we're going. So how do we even know what we want to say no to? I think that's the biggest thing first. And, I think for me, this was, I will get a promotion when they think I'm ready. I will, My partner will recognize that I want more help with the kids. So I'm not even acknowledging that that's what I want. Do I want that promotion? Heck yeah. Do I want my partner to be involved? Absolutely. But I think it's getting really clear on what you want your year away vision to look like first before you really decide what you want to say yes to. I think, having that strong gut feeling to say, I know what I want out of life. And this decision right now is a hell yes, or it's a hell no. And that's it. There's no in between.
100%. I think if you can define your future and what you want, you'll get there that much faster. But there lies the challenge is, how do you know what you want? I mean, so many women that I work with haven't even thought about 5 years ahead. They're so busy surviving every day that to even think about where you want to be in a year or 2 or 3 is just so overwhelming. To put another goal on your plate, like I know women are screaming saying, Jen, how on earth am I going to add another goal to my plate after everything I'm juggling? Like, it's just, there's not enough time, that is how everyone feels. So how do you get them to look at their 5-year plan and what they really want? Like, what are some techniques we can give women to help them understand what they really want?
Yeah. I think the first part I want to acknowledge is that a lot of people think, oh my God, I have to have this rock bottom moment to decide to change my life. And yes, 3 years ago, that was a life-changing moment for me. But I didn't really start thinking about what I wanted until people technically from the outside would have seen as I've got it together. And so I want to acknowledge that first, because you can do it just because you say you want to, and you can do it today. And so I think the first thing there is really saying, I want it. What I'm doing isn't working, whether that be because of something life-changing or not. If you can seriously sit down and say, this is not working for me, for my kids, for my life, for my career, then that's enough. I think that's the first part. And then I think the second part is, you don't have to know everything today. You can start dreaming of something you think you want. And I'll tell you this, mine really started when I said, okay, enough's enough. I got to get an outside opinion because this isn't my specialty. And I hired a coach. And that was the biggest change for me because I didn't know and I couldn't see it. And I'll tell you, my coach is probably going to be laughing when she hears this, because she had to stay on me nonstop. When I was she's like, what do you want for your life? I don't know. I'll get there. What do you want for your life? I don't know. I think maybe this. Nonstop asking. And it really took that. And then for me, it was just seeing, when did I have that gut reaction? That was the first step. When I looked at someone online, which again, we all know is fake, but when I looked at someone online, or I saw a picture, or I saw a post, or I saw people walking down the street, and I had that gut reaction of I want that. That's where I started, because there's something in me. I don't know what specifically it was, but there's something that I want from that. So that was kind of my first step to seeing where I wanted, and then really honing in from there, and saying, okay, I see this person posting a happy picture with her family on the beach. What do I want from that? I want time with my family. I want to be able to disconnect, and I want a relationship that my kids look at and say, that's a really good relationship and they love each other. Yeah. That's where I started. You'll figure it out along the way. So you don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to have a breakdown to get there.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I fully agree. I mean, the first thing, which I think is really important, is acknowledging that there's pain, because pain and that feeling of unease is what's going to get you to move. It's the nudge. It's the nudge that you need. Hell, guys, something is wrong. This isn't working. This isn't aligned with what you love. And, I had that for years. I mean, I hopped from corporate job to corporate, and I had dream jobs. I mean, women would have killed for the jobs that I was in. So on paper, life was great. I had the trophy husband, I had the career, but there was that feeling that something wasn't right. I didn't fit. And so I would hop from job to job. I would start a company and figure that out. Is that the company that I want? And one day my husband said to me, he said, you're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be happy with anything that you do. And I said to him, well, I'm just going to keep trying because it's more painful to stay where I am and not figure this out than try and find out what the hell it is. And that for me was great for me because it got me to where I am. But the other thing is, which you mentioned, and it's so true, is that you will never have it all figured out.
No.
So the one thing that I recommend to people who don't know what they want is, think about a day when you had a really good day and you came home and you were like, damn, that was a good day, or I killed it. Or when you forgot to eat because you were just enjoying yourself so much and time flew by and, you got that energy. What were you doing? Start there, because if you start to dabble in what you like and what you enjoy and what you value, maybe you realize you love presenting. Maybe you love having meetings at work. Maybe that's because you love connecting. Start there. But thinking about it and trying to find your purpose and your goal for the next 5 years is not going to happen just through thinking. You have to just get involved. Just get involved, speak to people, join a community. Like, you will never have it all figured out. And I had a call one day. So I used to put a lot of pressure on myself. Like, what is my purpose? Because why do I feel like this? What's missing? I don't understand. What is going on? Like, what's wrong with me? And so I had a call with Sonia Chiquette. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's like a global intuition leader. She's phenomenal. And she just said to me, Jen, you don't have to know your purpose and save the world tomorrow. She's like, stop putting so much pressure. You don't have to solve the world's problems. Just start doing what you love and get creative. And that for me was like, you're right. Actually, you're right. Like, all I have to do is start dabbling and I'll find the way naturally,
Yeah. And I think that's like the two things I love more than anything: curiosity and action. If you can get curious and say, what is going on? Okay, I'm going to just do something. It could literally be, okay, I'm curious about my health. Why am I feeling bad in the mornings? Okay, I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk.
Yeah.
I'm going to get fresh air. Like,
game changer.
Get curious with why you're feeling something and do something. Because you can think. You got to do something along with it and just try. And again, nobody has it figured out. Don't ever let anybody think that they do. Because even when you get to what you thought your goal would be, like I said, what I thought my 5-year goal, I'm living it right now in a year. And so I got to figure it out again. It's never going to stop.
Exactly. So. And also, I think it's quite daunting for women to create goals because they look at other women and we say, oh, but you've got all your shit figured out. People say to me, Jen, but you've got everything figured out. Like, you're so healthy, you've got kids, like the ideal family, ideal career success. I'm like, guys, I still don't have everything figured out. I never will have, because you keep growing. So every time you reach that goal, you're going to say, okay, what next? What's changed? You change, your life changes. So I totally agree. I think you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have a crystal clear goal either. It's okay if you don't have a crystal clear goal. Just start somewhere and do something in that realm. But Jen, one of the other things is, what I see comes across often, and I know you'll 100% agree with me on this one, is that we all feel we never have enough time. So, and every time a coach works with a new client, or maybe people do an online course, the one thing that I think is really missing is, guys, well, how are you going to fit this into your schedule and create more time for yourself? But here's the thing. Everybody has the same amount of time in the world. The only difference is whether you have the discipline to prioritize what goes in your time and have the discipline to be able to remove from your calendar or from your schedule what doesn't serve you. And I think, this falls into your thinking and your program, where you look at saying yes to more things and no to things that don't serve your goal. How do you integrate that into managing time to make it easier for someone and less overwhelming to achieve their goals?
So one of my favorite sayings is like, we all have the same amount of time as Beyonce. Like, I mean, look at her. She achieves everything.
Like
She's
that.
just laser focused. Like Beyonce's the same amount of time a day as we do. And somehow she has created a multi-million. It's because she's laser focused. And yes, she has 1 million people helping her. However, I think that start by looking at your day. And I do this with my clients all the time. And it's so impactful. Spend for the next 3 to 5 days.
Yeah.
I want you to set a timer every 30 minutes. And when that timer goes off, I want you to write down what you're doing and either put a check or an X.
Oh, that's good.
Do that every 30 minutes. It could be writing email, coordinating logistics to soccer. What you have, just either put in a note, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then when you look back at your schedule, figure out, where am I spending my time? Are there more X's than checks? Is it more in the morning that I have more filling my cup than in the afternoon? Mm-hmm. And figure out where you need it. So something's not working in your schedule, right? Yeah. Something is not aligned. So where is that? And where do you need more of it? For me, that's mornings. I need my mornings. I got to get up. I need to have my water. I need to stretch. I need to have my coffee. And then I sit down and do about an hour and a half or 2 hours of work for my business, because I know for me, when my children get up, I want to hug them. I want to make them breakfast. And I want to be able to be really engaged with them because I care about before school. That's what matters to me. So I adjust my schedule to make it work, but I wouldn't have known that. And I wouldn't have gotten up early if I hadn't had so many days where I was stressed out trying to pack everything in and on my phone the minute they got up and the minute they got home, and had them look at me like, what are you doing? Mom. Yeah. Because all they're doing is fighting for my attention. That didn't work for me. And so I think it's figuring out what matters, again, to your focus. And then when do I need my cup filled up the most? For me, it's mornings. Other people, it's like at the end of the day. When do I need that so that I can help and be present?
100%. And I think it's about, for me, what works really well is actually taking your calendar. So you mentioned, what's important to you. So let's say you have 3 things. It's your being present with your kids. It's, working and achieving your work goals, and then maybe health. So in your week, for example, my calendar, I call it calendar blocking. I have literally time for gym, time for meditation, time for work. And I also wake up early because I find I'm really productive and I get a lot done before the kids wake up and all of that. Time for work. And then when I get home late in the afternoons, I'm present. And and this is where the discipline comes in. Are you disciplined enough to not multitask in that time? So when you're at home, you're at home. Forget work. Leave your phone. When you're at home, you're at home, because then you'll be present with your kids. And it does take practice. It does you have to get used to it. But it is so rewarding because then you feel you're getting the most out of that moment. You're getting the most out of work, and you're actually accomplishing things because your mind is not in 20 places at once.
Yep. I think we went back and forth about this recently, that 48% of the time you're on autopilot during every day. 48% of your day, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, that's crazy. And so how are we going to give ourselves more time when we're on autopilot most of the time? You want to start there? Think about when those times when you don't even remember what you did for the past hour. Were you scrolling? Were you driving? Like, I can't tell you how many times I would look down at my phone. I'd look up, it'd be 45 minutes later. I'd be like, what did I even read? Figure out those blackout moments. Start there.
Remove the things that drain you and all those blackout moments from your calendar. You'll be so shocked how much time you actually save.
Yep, 100%. Absolutely.
The other thing is, which is an interesting topic, and again, I think this comes up often, is, when we plan goals for ourselves, and any woman that's, from one ambitious soul to another, when they are planning goals, we often find it really difficult to add time for ourselves because we feel as though we're taking away time from the family. But here's the thing. You cannot show up as your best self for those people that you love if your cup is empty. So those moments are so important. And, I'll never forget years ago, it must have been about 10 years ago, I was working really hard. The hours I was working were just ridiculous. And I crashed and burned, and I cried on the floor of my bathroom. And I don't cry. And I actually bawled my eyes out. I was emotional. I would burst into tears in the car. I had just hit rock bottom. It was too much. And my coach said to me, I had a coach at the time, and he was like, Jen, you need to manage your energy levels, because if you don't, you will not give your best self and achieve the best that you can. So for me, I don't want women, and I really encourage them not to feel guilty, to take 30 minutes out of your day and work on that side business for extra income, or work on that side hustle that you want to be your business in the future, or go for a walk. It's a game changer. It literally is a game changer. And we underestimate how much it does for our emotional well-being, for our mental state. And what I find is, if you make, even if it's 30 minutes, 15 minutes, if you will, have a bath, lock your door, just have a bath without anyone coming in.
Yeah.
And you will come out there being so much better for the people that you love.
Well, and I think the part of that that's hard for us is we have to take accountability. And it is hard to say to myself, I am here and feeling drained because of me. This is my doing. No, nobody, my kids aren't saying, telling me I have to organize this stuff, or telling me that I have to do this. I have to take accountability that I am doing this to myself. Yeah. I am choosing to scroll on my phone. I am choosing to have that glass of wine at the end of the night to decompress, which then makes my head hurt, which then I can't sleep, which then leads me to not want to wake up with this is my doing, which then comes power, because you can change at any single moment. So what do you want? Take accountability for what you want. It's hard. And that's why no one does it, because your brain doesn't want to go to the things that suck. It's not like, ooh, this is going to hurt you and you're going to want to feel uncomfortable, so do it. No, that's not how your brain works. It keeps you safe. So,
well, I suppose it's easy to play the victim in your own mind, because it justifies, I'm unhappy, the world's doing this and that to me. But I think really the power comes, like you say, when you stop believing that you're a victim in the world, and you understand that you are 100% responsible for your own life. And when we do that, that's when magic happens, because you take the power back. We can't wait for the world and our external environments to change our life. We have to be that change and change our environment and our world. And the minute that mindset shift happens, that is when magic happens. That's when your life changes. And it doesn't have to be these bold moves. It does not. It can start off, you've got to chunk it down. Do 1 15-minute walk a day. See how your mood changes. Do 15 minutes towards that side business. See how excited you feel. Get that fire going in your belly again. All of these small actions add up, and it doesn't have to be these bold moves as you're starting out towards your goal.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think that the martyr piece really hits home, because, there was a point in my life where I thought, if I took care of everybody else, I called this person, I had my 5 calls in the morning, I checked in, I made sure everyone was good, I had my 5 calls at night, I made dinner. I was seen as the one who took care of everybody, and I was drowning. So at what point are you going to say, you know what? These people are all taking, and they're okay with it. When am I going to say enough is enough, and I am drowning? They are not. I need to do it for me. So absolutely.
100%. Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I find that part of the personal development process and the growing process is about looking at who is taking your energy. We call them bloodsuckers. And often family, they're draining you with their problems. They're finding people to join their pity party, and you are getting dragged down with that. So part of it is learning to set boundaries and say no to your family, which is difficult. But here's the thing. they love you. They're gonna get used to the new you. They're gonna get over it. They're gonna forgive you. They're gonna still love you. And if it's somebody that doesn't, then they're not the right person for you.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jen, in your program, you include a system for filtering yourself. How do you incorporate this while being cognizant of the fact that many women, they take a backseat for their own life because they're serving others and everyone they love, exactly what we're talking about now. So they come second in their own life or third. And that's where this guilt comes in that, am I doing something for myself? And we feel guilty for it, like it's wrong in some way. What is the filtering process that you use in your program?
Yeah. Well, I think guilt is, I think the root of guilt, and listen, I grew up Catholic, so this is like ingrained in me all over the place. I always joke that I got that Catholic guilt. So it takes a while to break, but I think the root of guilt is that I call it shoulding on yourself. Like you are saying, I should this, I should that, I should be here. Even when you are somewhere where you said, I should be at the soccer game, you're thinking I should be doing something else. Yeah. And so it's because you aren't focused. You have no idea what you're striving towards. And once you really figure out that vision, it's saying, okay, for example, my vision is to be all of these things, or here's what I think I want. So the 3 things that matter to me are being present with my family, are having, being healthy so I feel good, and then being passionate about my career. If those are your 3 things, then write them down, put it on a Post-it where you see it every single day, where you sit, where you see it, put it on your phone, put it on your background, whatever the case is. Yeah. Because every single thing that comes in to you, every request, every conversation, every single thing should be running through that filter to say, does this contribute or take away from where I want to be? Perfect example. Let's say someone comes to you and says, hey, I want you to help run this fundraiser at the kids' school, right? Yeah. Well, ask yourself the 3 questions. Does this give me time with my family? No, because I'm going to be going to meetings. Does this make me passionate about my career? No. Yeah. Does this add to my health? No. Then it's a hell no. And you'll get better at it. You'll get better at it every time. And you'll feel it in your body, and you'll start really understanding okay, this is not my goal. It's okay to say no. Everybody else says no. I can say no too. But sometimes you say yes. But then when you do say yes, you feel good about it. You feel like I am doing this because I know why, and it's pushing me one step in the direction I want to go. You know, a friend says, hey, you want to go on a walk? You have time with my family? No. Passionate about my career? No. But is it having my health? Yes. Then I'm going to go because I know I made that choice.
And then you start to feel those accomplishments, that you're accomplishing more because you're not saying yes to things that aren't serving what you want. And I do believe that's where the sense of we juggle so much and do so much, but we're still not doing enough. It's because we're saying yes to all the things that don't add value to what we're trying to achieve. And the other thing, which I think is really great, is the minute you reduce what you prioritize and you start saying no to all the things that don't serve you, that overwhelm, that anxiety that you wake up to, that frenzy that you wake up to every Monday disappears. Because you have less to focus on. You don't have as many goals that you have to get through, and this to-do list that goes on for days where you're dreading your week, and get those Sunday blues. So really helps there.
And I'll tell you, I think people that know me would say I move slower and do less today than I have ever done in my entire life. I was like the Tasmanian devil, 100 miles a minute, going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. We were not home any weekend because I had us planned back-to-back events, right? Yeah. I probably move slower now than I ever have before, and I am more fulfilled. Granted, it's a roller coaster. Like there's some weekends where it's the same thing because that's just out of our control. But I know that I am saying yes, or my core is that I am focusing on what I want to, and it's just slower. And I feel so content when I am home, and I'm so content when I'm just being, because I know that being is part of my goal. So.
Oh, I love that. I really, really love that being is part of your goal. And I think you mentioned something interesting, the going at 500 miles an hour. There is this hustle culture of burnout and exhaustion, and you've got to work 16 hours a day. Now, I do not believe this in any sense. I do believe that at times you have to put in the extra work if you have high ambitions for your goal, because if you put in mediocre time, you will get mediocre results. So there will be moments where the balance might be slightly out, but it's about managing that and making sure that you don't lose that connection with the people that you love, that you value so much, because you're doing it over extended, really long periods of time. But I also believe that doing more doesn't necessarily lead to more success.
Right.
And having that balance and that sleep that you need, healthy food, making time for exercise is going to fuel your body. If you do not fuel your body and your energy levels, again, you just won't perform. You won't achieve the goals that you want. But really interesting, Jen, what would you say, and I find there's the concept of beliefs that really hold people back, where they have these limiting beliefs. And a lot of the time we're not even aware of it. And I had a client this week that said to me, Jen, I'm so frustrated because I know what I want. I know I need to change, but I do nothing about it. Now, what I said to her is, go easy on yourself, because you've learned these things over years, the day you were born. So, you now are changing habitual emotions and perceptions that you've learned for 35 years. You're expecting to just change it overnight, but it doesn't happen. You've got to change your internal world first. So we often look at, what are the limitations and the barriers that stop you from achieving that 5-year plan or that 1-year plan? What do you find are like the number one block for people?
The number one block is ourselves. And kind of tying back to your comment about hustle, I literally used to say, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I will outwork anybody. And so that was my badge of honor. I would work harder than anybody else, but I didn't believe I was smart enough. And so my default was to work. But when I take a step back and I say, I think the biggest thing you can do is say, is that true? Yeah. We have all these things that are ingrained in our brain. Things that from childhood, things that happen to you when you grow up, like all these things people said to you. And when you really sit down and say, okay, is that true? And what evidence do I have that that's not true? Yeah. 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, you are going to have facts and evidence that prove that what you're telling yourself is absolutely not true. Yeah. So why are you letting that one belief from when you were 9 years old about how, you only get 90% on test influence the person, the adult, the businesswoman you are today? It seems crazy when you break it down. But I think the biggest thing that holds us back is ourselves. It's our past, and saying, but challenging it to say, is this true? And what evidence do I have that this isn't true? And you always have evidence that it's not true, because you've been working against it your whole life. You are there. You've done it. You just have to show yourself.
Yep. You almost have to do an investigation. You have to look for things that have happened, experiences or things that people have said that debunk that bullshit belief.
Absolutely.
And it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Vishen Lakhiani, he calls them rules, which I love. And he says they are bullshit rules that we live by. And they're formed by your culturescape. They're formed by, your perception of the world, your emotions, your experiences. And what happens is we validate it every year as we grow older, so that we actually believe it to be true and fact. But it's not. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's not proven. So if you do go back and let's say, maybe you have the belief that maybe you want to start a coaching business, for example, or an online business, but you believe you're not good at public speaking because you flunked at school in English, or you spoke on stage once and people laughed at you, So over the years, every time something happens, you'll say to yourself, you see, I know I'm not a good public speaker. And you'll tell that person and that person until you believe it. But actually, public speaking comes with practice and building it. Nobody's born an expert in public speaking. And if you look at other times, maybe you were at a dinner table speaking to everyone and everyone was really engaged and they were listening to you and you killed it, or you killed it at a meeting at work. Then you think, wait a minute, I've had on a few occasions where people said I did really well and I had a really good meeting. So actually, I'm not bad at public speaking, you know?
Yes.
I
think that's the power of coaching, right? Like therapy is looking at your past and validating, right? Like you are valid in your feelings, and that works for some people if you have some deep stuff to work through. The reason I think coaching is so powerful is for that reason alone, to say, yes, we're going to talk about your past because that's gotten you here. However, what does this mean moving forward? And how can we change your behaviors, change your actions, change your beliefs? Because you have a long life to live. And you got to do something with it. You can't sit where you are today.
And it's never too late. It is never. Age is just a freaking number. So the stigma around, you know, you're in your 30s or your 40s, you've had your career. It is the biggest load of nonsense. And I just, you know, it's so important to tell people you've got one life, you've got a long life. You can do whatever you want in any year that you want. It doesn't matter. It really just is a number. So it is never too late. But the one thing that, you know, I think is really important when you're planning your goals and what you want to achieve is to go through the process of understanding your purpose. Now, purpose is a huge word to throw around. So I don't want to scare people and say, oh, you got to find your purpose. You got to figure it out. No, it's what you love doing. It's what you're drawn to. And everyone, you know, you might find that what you love doing is the norm, or what you're good at is the norm. But what you don't realize is not everybody has that skill or has that love or that passion. So that's really where I like to start, is what is your passion? What do you love? And then aligning your life with that. And with that comes your career goals. Now, I've launched quite a few businesses. Some were really great. Some were awful. Mixed bag. We grow each time, you know. But the one business that I launched, it must have been about 6 years ago, was a PR and marketing. In fact, it was even longer. It must have been about 8 years ago. PR and marketing and events company. And it was, it was a really good business. Like our first year alone did over $330,000. And we're just starting from nothing. But then times got tough and I gave up and I sold it. Great, I made money from it, but I regret selling it. And I couldn't understand why I had done that. And even with the other businesses, I had a skincare line that I started really great. And it's, and I sort of lost interest and I thought I was failing. But what I realized is that I didn't really believe in that as my purpose. It wasn't, but I didn't know my purpose. So if you don't align your businesses and your career, whether you're working or you have your own business, with what you really are passionate about, you will never have the stamina and the energy and the, persistence to really build it to where you want. So I really believe in the shoe has to fit. The shoe has to fit with whatever you're doing. Like, understand what you love doing and then make sure the shoe fits. And don't do a career that you think you should be doing, right? We all do it. Marketing and cosmetics and fashion, and it's great, but it has nothing to do with what you actually love to do. So,
and that's so, think about us as women. We get this really great outfit. How many pairs of shoes do we try on before we decide, I love this one? I love how this looks, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so why would you, if you start in a career and you don't love the shoe, what? Are you just going to sit with it forever? Sit with that ugly loafer that makes you feel
uncomfortable shoe,
or that high heel that makes your toes bleed? Like, no, you're going to try something else. You're going to get back in that store and take that nasty shoe off and try something new. And yes, I completely agree. And I love your story because I think one of the things is, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, this scares me, I can't do it, thinking that means I'm curious about it. That means I want to see if it works. And shit, it might not. Doesn't work, great, move on. You've at least figured out, okay, what did I like about it? What did I not? And then you can go from there. Like I was a marketing major. I started in teaching. I went to HR, and then I went to coaching. And the one theme throughout all of those is I love helping people realize their potential. I love helping people find their meaning. That's what's fulfilling to me, is seeing that light bulb moment, whether it was teaching, whether it was HR, whether it's coaching, it all comes to fruition. So, and that's a 10, 15-year journey to find quote unquote purpose. You don't have to know, like you said.
And it also doesn't come to you like this epiphany. It doesn't come as this great realization that you found your purpose. And I think, the older you get as a woman, the more you start to sort of panic. Well, I haven't found it yet. I'm going to hit 40 soon. What is happening? What is my, it isn't this big realization moment. It's about dabbling in everything. So the one thing that I do want to just touch on is, a lot of women are working full-time jobs at the moment, and it is difficult to leave because you've got, built it to a certain salary level and you've got bills to pay, right? And you've got a family to look after. And women now, we contribute so much to the household, and we want to do that, and we want to be accomplished and build our dreams. But if you feel that your job at the moment doesn't align with what you really enjoy, and your job isn't fulfilling, which it should be, because you spend 80% of your time there, what are the steps that you can take without hitting that burnout? So in your program, if you have somebody who wants to start, even if it's a passion project, doesn't have to be a side business, just doing something they love, what do you recommend they do to try and fit that into their schedule and just start dabbling in that industry?
I think there's two things. One, if you have to stay in your job, because, a single mom at one point, I get it. You have to have that. Then figuring out what is my passion and what are the skills in that drive me, and can I incorporate it to my current position? Because again, time is limited. How do we streamline? And saying, so if you are, working in a data job, and you think, and your passion, you see all these things about connection and coaching and leadership, and that's what drives you, go to your job and say, how can I incorporate this today? Can I start talking to peers? Can I start working cross-functionally? Can I find a project that I just want to sit in on? Really figuring out the what about it. You don't have to be doing the thing. Figuring out what drives you, and then incorporating it in your day-to-day, because there's always a way. I promise you, you couldn't give me an example where there's not a way to incorporate something into what you're doing today. The other side is, if you do have a little bit of time, just start learning. Because while we think that, I used to say this all the time, and no one cares what I have to say. Like, I don't know everything about coaching. I don't know every topic. I don't know all the different. If you know more than one article, you know more than most people. And so just learn, because the learning drives you. You're going to be, passionate about it, and then start figuring out what that looks like for you. I mean, even if it's just daydreaming at this point, you're working your full-time job, you're trying to incorporate some stuff, and then dream about, okay, what do I want this to look like? That way you're still working towards your goal. You're still making progress, but time is going to have to be a little different for you. And that's okay. That's great. You're still moving in the direction you want.
And I love that. I love, what I always say is, you only have to know 20% more than the person you're adding value to. And I think we often say, we don't know if we're adding value, or are we good enough? You have that imposter syndrome that sinks in, and you think you won't be. Maybe you want to start a side business or a full-time business for yourself, but you don't think you have what it takes, or you don't think you'll add value, or that people will pay for your service, because that's the other thing. We undercharge so often because we don't value ourselves. And what I always say is, just remember, if you know 20% more than that person, you're going to add value. You don't have to have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. I don't care how old you are, experienced you are, nobody has it. So, just see that value that you're adding, and also what you take as common knowledge, other people might find this, wow, I never thought of it that way, or that's mind blowing. I never knew that. So we often underestimate how much value we actually add. And
if you're passionate about it, if you're passionate about it, then you won't care because you're just doing it because you want to, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter who gives you the validation. You love it. So
I love it. And Jen, before we end off, how do you take, one of the biggest things that caught my eye in your program is how you take 5-year goals to 1.
Yeah.
Tell me how you get there, because I personally am interested in knowing that.
So I think that if you know where you want to go, you feel it, you see it, it's clear, you have a filter to figure out what that looks like. You put the habits in place to move one step every single day, and you're consistent and dedicated, you literally are going to be unstoppable. And so I'm a personal testament to that, which is why I believe in it so much. Like I said before, I am living my 5-year dream life in 1 year. And if you would have told me this a year ago, I probably would have laughed in your face. And it's so funny because you just look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. I am here. Now it's time to set new and bigger goals, because it's all about doing the things every single day. And then you look up and you're where you wanted to be. It just happens because you are dedicated, you are consistent. I firmly believe that consistency over everything. People who have raw natural talent, yes, they might have raw natural talent. They might be the best public speaker in the world. But if every single day you record yourself speaking about something you care about and speaking about something you love, I guarantee you will be further along in your career, further along in that passion than they'll ever be by just showing up how they are. I have not seen one of my clients work with me who has not achieved their 5-year goal in 1 year. It's just how it works.
I love it. I agree. I think the more focused you are and the more you remove the clutter from your life, the faster you'll get to achieving that goal. But Jen, thank you so much for joining the show. I mean, we've covered finding out firstly what it is that you want, because if you are not clear, your path is going to be very squiggly instead of straight. And to do that, it's really important to look at what you love to do. Figure that out first. You don't have to have it all figured out. Nobody has it figured out. And you don't have to do this huge goal and achieve this huge goal tomorrow. Just start. Most importantly is just start. Filter out what's not serving you. Learn to say yes to what serves your future vision. Say no to what isn't. And then calendar block, put it in your calendar and be disciplined enough to show up for yourself. You want to build your confidence? Show up for yourself first and show yourself that you can do that. Then you'll see your confidence build and exude to the world. So really exciting, Jen. Thank you so much for joining the show. And I'm sure we're going to do lots more things together. I'm so glad you joined us today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Oh, thanks, Jen. You too.
What you gonna do when the rain is